assuming. Eh?
Get your fire in.
Aye. See, I know I'm live, but I'm just reading this through Daniel Armour. I get what you are saying, but we are not children, our perspectives are broader. We understand that we are using tools to think. It is these presupposed tools that are in question. How do you justify the existence and use of logic? That's the point I was making to Daniel Armour, in the previous comment. Again, it's this separation. I know this is titled obviously objective subjective, but just quickly, because a lot of these things are relevant. When we're at the level of experience, a child, as I put in the comment, a child is no using conceptual tools of logic or any of these things. A child is just exploring what is. There's no conceptual presuppositions or beliefs or any of that stuff. So at the level of experience, we just experience what is. You don't need any formal use of language or tools. So only when we try and convey it to each other that becomes a problem. So that brings us to the introduction of this, because we're talking objective subjective. We've got Marty here, out of camera. And the very first point that we need to start on before we even talk about subjective and objective is language. Because language is the tool that we're using to try and convey things to each other. For me, language is used as a
tool of communication.
A tool of communication to some, to symbolise something that we can agree upon, like fire, chimney, these are just, so first and foremost, language for me is just noises.
Oh, it is.
It's just a noise, and then what we have to do is we have to have an agreement on how we ascribe a particular noise to a particular object, like pen. We agree that's pen. It doesn't define what this is or any of that. It's just a word to signify the object. So I don't want to get too bogged down before we get into the objective subjective thing with language. I think we just have to clarify that we're well aware that we're using this thing called language, and we have to be very careful about it. And I think as we go further into this, we can extrapolate on
how language is used against us, how different definitions manipulate things and such like.
Yes, exactly. As we were talking about earlier, one word can signify something to somebody else, and it means something totally different to another person. So language, first and foremost, is not objective, right? What we can start looking at in regards to language later on is things like body language, the animal kingdom, the use of these symbols from, we'll just use the animal world, where it appears to be more objective. If I was to read somebody's body language, like Marty's body language, the difference with human beings is, and again, I'm not saying that animals can't either, but human beings can be deceptive. So we can't really categorise body language as something objective that we can depend upon, because you can signify to me that you've got, good intentions. Your body language, you're a stranger, I don't know who you are, but you can signify whatever you want to me, but you could be disguising yourself for your own agenda. So just to touch on it quick, language is nothing objective. It's subjective tools that we use to signify things.
Right. It's like creating a consensus, so if we're on a conversation we know objectively what we're talking about.
Yeah.
As you say, there's a pen, we all know that's a pen, so now we can talk about the pen.
Yeah. And again, it needs to be put clearly, pen does not describe nor explain what this thing is.
I mean, a pig farmer, what's a pen?
Exactly, just
Well, that's fine. But yeah, just.
Anyhow, let's see, we'll get onto this topic of discussion. Anyhow, let's see, you hear my voice. You can see this chat box here. Hello, people in the chat, anybody watching? None of us know what anything is really called. Only the creator would know this. again, things don't have to have a name, they are what they are. Again, back to this point, objective and subjective. So how are we defining, how are we clarifying this here? For me, it's simple.
Just you read out there, talked about the creator, right?
Yeah.
So a pen is actually a biro, because the creator of that was somebody called something biro, was he not?
No sure.
So just obviously that guy said about the creator side thing, you know, so the creator, the inventor, shall we say, can name things
Yeah.
to give us an idea of what we're actually talking about.
Yeah. But when we're talking about, you know, creation as in the world, life, the universe, however you want to label it, I don't think we can presuppose anything
No.
about what that is and its intent or any of that stuff. So again, just to clarify, objective and subjective. For me, objective is the world that exists outside of our inner world. That being the world of objects, of matter, that to us at the experiential level are separate from us, and there's what we call space in between it. So, you know, feel free to jump in any time you want, Marty.
Don't hear the same thing twice.
I think, you know, the reason why I want to do this is because any topic of discussion that comes up, any issue in the world, any communication between human beings, there's never like the first principles, the grounds set out about what we're talking about. And for me, the two filters of anything that we're going to talk about has to come into objective and subjective. So every one of us can agree that there's a space, there's an outward world and space between us and every other object that we would call the objective world. And it is what it is. Regardless of what labels we give it, you know, what we try and ascribe to it, it just is at the level of our experience. I want to just touch on this quick because of commenters from last night. When I'm saying this, because people are talking about philosophical propositions in regards to what matter is and, you know, what consciousness is and blah blah. Right now I'm discussing it purely from the point of view of an experiencer. When you're a child, you're born and you're an experiencer, you experience what is. You don't have preconceptions, presuppositions, philosophical bias, religious beliefs, you don't have any of that. You're just born into a situation where you're experiencing what actually is. If a newborn baby goes into a car and leaves the hospital and that car has in an accident, there's going to be a cause and effect consequence for that child. Again, regardless of its beliefs, because it doesn't have any at that point in its life. So that's just to establish there is an objective world at the point of experience. Philosophically, we can discuss, you know, concepts and notions and ideas about what matter is, how it came to be, what gives rise to it, what holds it together. That's a whole other, you know, meandering.
And it's all subjective.
And it's subjective, you know, because the stories that you're telling yourself in regards to your objective interactions are purely that, they're stories.
They only exist in your own head.
Yeah. What time is it? It's 1:30. One man has detected Della thought. We look straight out and we see convergence. Sky falls to eye level, ground rise to eye level. This we know. But what does that mean when we look up? It must also converge. See, this is the point. We only see that structure when there's objects and things to reference in relation to other objects. I mean, you know, if we were just purely in three-dimensional empty space, you would have nothing to signify that kind of structure of, you know, a conical convergence point of the workings of your eye. You need objects in place in order to, you know, establish that.
Even then, what you perceive is limited by the tools you use to perceive things.
Yeah.
Like we've all accepted everything you see with your eyes is exactly what you're seeing, but is it?
Exactly.
It's just how you translate it.
Yeah, but you can, I mean, the looking up thing, you can go to high-rise buildings that are close to each other, and if you look up, you'll see the exact same convergence happening. Again, we get that convergence because we're so close to the ground. And I've spoken about this before in regards to ships disappearing bottom up. That's because we're so close to the ground. If we were equidistant, if we presuppose that we've got a ground and we've got a ceiling, right, and we're equidistant, from both of those than anything that's going into the distance. And even if you didn't have a floor and a ceiling, any object that goes away from your eye is going to dissipate evenly around the whole object. But when we're so close to the ground and we've got the angle of light, problem, things disappear from the bottom up only because we're so close to the ground. It just looks bigger because it's daylight. Anyhow, I don't want to digress into any of that. We're talking about objective and subjective. Well, that's a sorry.
Oh, you carry on.
That's a perfect point, one man, he's detective, because that's exactly what one of the things to talk about in regards to objective and subjective. So that's some of the complexities that come. Objectively, we can all say and agree that we look up and we see what we call stars, apparent objects. Now, there's the only way for, if there's an object in three-dimensional space, the only way for me to understand more about what it is to access it in 3 dimensions. So then I can apply different senses. I can apply my touch, I can move around it in 3 dimensions and access it at that level. But when I'm only seeing a visible representation, then it becomes subjective, because you're starting to then interpret things, because you have to then presuppose, you have to start thinking from an axiom, an assumption, to try and work out what it is you think this apparent object is. And that's some of the branches that we will go into later on in this series of subjectivity, and how humans are formulating these tools and methods of trying to comprehend intangible phenomena. So at the point of vision, objectively,
we see everything in 2D.
And we can also objectively agree that we see something that we call the sun, the moon, the stars. Right? But what are these things? Again, if I show you an object 500 metres in the distance, you can suppose, you can guess, you can whatever, you can sit there and come up with all sorts of theorems, based on light, shadows, whatever, you can come up with. But the difference in that situation is you can actually go to this object and you can access it in 3 dimensions. So you can experience it for what it is. But again, the minute you start ascribing a story language to it, you're entering into the realms of subjectivity. Objective is physical reality. Yeah. So just like that though, objective is physical reality. Again, sun, moon, stars are the objects.
I'm kind of playing with things now, honestly.
Aye.
I mean, you said sun, stars, and objects and that. Well, nobody's actually ever touched them to prove they're an actual object in that sense.
That's it.
And even then, objectivity, it depends on your perception.
Yeah.
The simplest one is the typical, your can, which if you're playing with, it's a cylinder in your hand because you've got your 3-dimensional touch around the back and all the rest of it. If you put it in front of yourself, because we actually only see in 2 dimensions, but we perceive 3 dimensions, because we've got 2 eyes obviously. But if you put it side on, it's actually a rectangle.
Yeah.
So objectively, you're right by saying, oh, that's a rectangle.
Yeah.
Somebody 90 degrees for you will turn around and they'll see the end of the can, which will be a circle.
Yeah.
So they'll say, oh, that's a circle, and objectively it is a circle for their perception.
And you can see that by using shadows, just as you say. So if you take a cylinder and you hold it up to the light and cast a shadow on the wall, you're going to get a rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
Turn it on its end and you're going to get a circle. So this is the point I'm making. It's based on perception. That's what I'm saying again about the subjective aspects of this. If we can only perceive it visibly, then it's not enough for me to claim something objective about that.
As I say, we only see in 2D.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody else says. I know we only see in 2 dimensions.
Yeah.
So if you're only looking at a flat surface, which is what 2D is, how can you just suddenly assume, oh, I know what's on the other side of that?
Yeah. The problem that people have, I think, in regards to that, the depth perception thing, is because they don't pay attention to their vision. As you say, it's 2-dimensional, but because we've got the experience of moving in 3 dimensions, and we've got used to the environment that we're in, you know, we're already formulating what we've experienced. So when you see something in the distance, you perceive that it has depth, that it, you know, that it has three dimensions to it. And that's only because you're using that every single day of your life. But again, if it's only a visible phenomena and you do not access it three-dimensionally, how can you claim it's, you know, an object?
A three-dimensional object.
Exactly.
It's like the old game, going back to the 80s, Cubert it was called, and it was like hundreds of wee cubes, and you had to bounce on them and change all their colours to try and get them all the top part of the cube the same colour.
Yeah.
Now, you're saying to yourself, well, it's three-dimensional cubes, it's on a 2D screen.
Yeah.
So in what way, shape or form is it 3D?
Exactly. That's the same for any video game.
Aye.
You know, people play these video games and they're perceiving it as three dimensions, but the reality is it's two-dimensional. So, I did have a plan laid out, but I drew over that, I rubbed that out for the objective and subjective. So what I would suggest, you know, is any topic that anybody wants to bring, and we could categorise it, you know, and break it apart for where the objective components are and where the subjective components are. Where is Gav? Gav's working in the likes. Can you open this a wee bit, Matty? Like that. Qbert.
That was the name of the game. Qbert. But even using games, that just shows you how easily you can get tricked into 3D.
Yeah.
Even though it's only 2D.
Yeah. I mean, that is, I mean, Kieran, I've had that before. Technically, you know, you draw on a piece of paper, it is three-dimensional because obviously there's going to be slight depth to it. But vision purely alone is two-dimensional.
See, the perception comes because you're actually, because you've got two eyes,
Yeah.
and you're so they're apart, so you're seeing things from two different angles.
Yeah.
But it's still a 2D picture. You're given as a perception of 3D.
Yeah.
Because you can see. Think of 3D TVs.
Yeah.
You know, you get this impression. Oh, there you can. It's three-dimensional. It's a 2D flat screen.
Yeah.
So in what way, shape, or form is it 3D?
Exactly.
But one of my wee bugbears concerning subjective and objective is people suddenly think because they put belief into something that makes it objective. Mm-hmm. You know, and you can move down the full faith, hope, and all the other nonsense delusions.
Yeah. So that's a good one. You know, I mean, we realise we're part of something objective at the experiential level, and we can surmise, you know, as I was saying the other night, nothing comes from nothing. So this came from something, and from there I can deduce and propose that, you know, there was a cause to what we call physical reality. And for me that's based in objective experience, because I've never witnessed in any way, shape or form something that appearing from nothing. But then what happens is that people, you know, can accept that proposition and then jump straight into a subjective realm of assuming why it's here, how it came to be, who done it, the nature of whatever done it, and what that thing wants from us. That's you know, totally wrong. I mean, let's look at it in something like the sexual, you know, this whole agenda of race, sexuality, blah blah blah. The gender argument. You know, for me, there's a simple way to see that, and it baffles me why it's never laid out by every single one of these supposed intellectuals. I've heard a couple of them. You know, and one of them that surprised me was a politician, Tulsi Gabbard, I think her name was. She appeared on Fox News, and she made the statement, you know, when we're talking about the, you know, gender of people, there's an objective and a subjective component to that whole debacle. Objectively, you know, you're born with certain genetics, you're born with certain body parts, and we recognise that as male, female, and we have a genetic, what's the word?
Chromosomes and such like.
Aye, there's a genetic crossover where we have hermaphrodites, right? And these things can be categorised objectively by, what is present in the physicality of the being, right? So if you're born objectively as a male with male reproductive parts, that's what you're objectively, right? That there's no escaping that. Subjectively, that being can identify as anything. It can want to be a woman, it can want to be a horse, it can identify as a unicorn, a fairy, whatever, and whatever the mechanisms and causes for these thoughts are as a whole other topic, but that's a subjective identification. There's the being in Martin and there's a being in me, but I cannot extrapolate that out from the body and show you it as an object, right? I can convey it using language, who I am, what my preferences are, what my feelings are in regards to different things and blah blah blah, but that's an internal working. We can say it's metaphysical because my consciousness, my self-identity, my emotions, my thoughts, they can't be taken out and shown in the objective world.
You can't put it in an envelope and post it somewhere.
Exactly. So, we have this kind of emergence of two worlds where we've got the world of matter that I would call the objective world, and we've got the merging of that with the metaphysical realm, which is consciousness, thoughts, feelings, yada yada. Now, for me, there's no way to establish objective truths from subjectivity, because subjectivity is a spectrum that varies across the whole board, and nobody has any right objectively to claim that their subjectivity is the truth all the way. That makes sense?
Oh aye. It's only when people start enforcing it.
Yeah.
That's a separate subject altogether.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not. I think it's relevant to what we're saying just now, because I mean, you look at this, why is this thrust on us? Why has it been, again, for me it's simple, it comes to this Hegelian dialectic of keeping people divided with each other. And the best way to divide people and keep them at each other's throats is by extrapolating the subjective world and trying to superimpose it onto the objective, right? And have people arguing and debating about gender rights and this right and that right and blah blah blah. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's private and it's your own affair, and it should never be brought into the public arena.
And the only way they can bring subjectivity into the objective is by manipulation of language.
Yep.
Which takes us back to the very start. It's all about the language and the communication.
Yeah. Because they talk about oppression and victimhood, and it usually, what allows them to bring these topics into the arena is through victimhood. By making people victims and then using a scapegoat to point the finger and blame it for victimhood. And it's difficult to talk about this because for me it's so fucking very simple. It's so simple. Objective world, subjective world, keep the two of them separate.
Keep the subjective in your head unless you're in your tribe, and then you can all sit and be subjective together.
Aye. Like if I want to go to say a football match, I go to a football stadium and objectively there's a stadium, objectively there's other people, objectively there's people playing a game on the park. Subjectively, would have an emotional attachment and a desire for that team to win and blah blah blah. But that's a preference, and the problem is that people are so emotionally attached to these things that they use it as a definer for who they are. It becomes an identification. That's who I am. I'm a this supporter. I'm a this fan. Or whatever. I enjoy.
There would be 50,000 other people saying the exact same things. To them it suddenly becomes an objective thing.
Yeah.
But that's just your appeal to numbers fallacies anyway.
But then it spills over and we see that, two subjectivities that have got these emotional attachments to an ideology want to battle each other and prove a point to each other. Totally bizarre. It's all rooted in insecurity.
See, that's a different subject altogether. So you're yourself going about people with beliefs and opinions and stuff like that. You know, how, as far as I'm concerned, people don't have an opinion because they're doing is putting subjective nonsense out there to dirty the water, so we say.
Exactly. Everybody's entitled to an opinion.
No, they aren't.
You know, well, everybody has subjectivity, but an entitlement to an opinion is a tool that's used, as I say, to perpetuate the divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
Because from that, everybody's entitled to an opinion. People think that means that they can shout and bawl at you and chastise you because you should pay attention to my opinion.
And that's where it goes wrong. As soon as that word "my" appears, my opinion, then they've attached themselves to it, so they're obliged to defend it.
Yeah.
Even though it's subjective nonsense, they'll still stand there and go, no, that's my opinion. And I'll turn and say, no, it's just a bandwagon you've jumped on.
Yeah.
You didn't create this opinion. The opinion was always there. The perspective is a better word I use rather than opinion. Was always there. Just because you jumped on it, attached my to it, you feel obliged to defend it, and suddenly you think in your head it's an objective thing.
Yeah.
When it's still totally subjective.
Yeah. The
other one as well is I always say it as well. People, the biggest one that gets people is stand up for what you believe.
Yeah.
Fuck off with that.
Exactly. These are mantras, as I say, that I would point to as part of that whole divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Stand up for what you believe and blah blah blah. No, for me, you need to eradicate your beliefs, and your beliefs and your preferences are your privacy. And if it suits you and it helps you to get through life and it, you know, tickles your fancy, then fine. As long as you're not trying to impose that on somebody else, then it's absolutely fine. But this, as you say, stand up for your beliefs, fuels people into this, well, I'm going to make banners and I'm going to go out there and demand that you respect my want to fucking be a Doug. You don't need my acceptance. You know, a transgender or somebody who's gay or blah blah, why are they seeking my approval or my acceptance? Again, the psychology has to be looked at there. They're perpetuating their victimhood and their weak mind.
Mm-hmm. It's all about acceptance.
Just to add to that, we've spoken about that before, you know, that these mantras, it was the same in school, and that type of mentality was there. Repeat, listen to what I tell you, and then I want you to regurgitate it and repeat it, but in your own words. So that formulates this notion that it's theirs, because if I formulate it in my own words, it means something.
And I get a gold star on the pan of heat for it.
There's like a form of alchemy there, a form of magic, if you like, where people are, it's subliminal to people, where they don't realise they're formulating these emotional attachments to things by putting it in your own words.
I mean, as you're saying, concerning all this alphabet squad and rainbow people, it's getting indoctrinated into schools.
Yeah.
So that's going to just totally confuse the kids.
Yeah.
They're not going to understand. As far as they're concerned, they're getting taught objective truths in school.
Yeah.
When they're not, all they're getting is subjective nonsense.
Yeah.
But because they're getting their gold stars, they're getting their rewards, per se, they'll come back out and just say, well, I've got my certificate here that says I'm right. Well, it's just all subjective.
But what that allows again in the future, as you say, with children, and this being established with children, what this allows in the future is that any subjective agenda, as long as it's got the backing and it can be pushed big enough, becomes truth. Because that's what they're being taught, that subjectivity is relevant, and that whoever has the biggest say or the biggest sway, you know, must be right in the realms of subjectivity. Rather than teaching children the relevance of what we're talking about right now, with objective and subjective, and you know, this being a private affair and this being something that's part of the external world, I mean, I don't see that happening.
Even this whole conversation is subjective.
Yeah.
You know, before people start saying, you are still pushing this or that.
No, we're not pushing anything.
Far from it.
Again, we're using language to try and establish the separation and the difference. I mean, is there really somebody out there that's not going to accept that there is an objective world? I mean, I broke it down simply for you. A newborn child is subjected to a cause and effect relationship with the physical world, and that child has no concept or beliefs or any of these things in regards to what it's experiencing. So there is an objective, experiential part of this world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there another one, gravity. So I spoke about this before. You know, here's the objective part. Right? And every single one of you can witness that and try it yourself. Right?
I mean, even to look at science, you break that down to objectivity and subjectivity, right? Now, you'll get scientific consensus, subjective. You know, that's the same as standing outside Ibrox where Rangers play on a Saturday and saying, I'm going to get a scientific consensus here and ask everybody, which the best team in Scotland?
Exactly.
And they're all going to say Rangers. Does that make that objective? Because you can do the same the following week at Parkhead.
Exactly. And
so your scientific consensus is subjective. Scientific theory is consensus, or sorry, subjective.
Yeah.
You know, it's only through experimentation and such like that you can create a description of the objective reality that we're in.
And that's the difference. There's a difference between describing what is and use of language to describe and convey. Like, you know, if you're an engineer and I send you descriptors of materials, certain dimensions that we've agreed upon as a metric system, then you know how to construct that, and there is an objectivity to that. But we're using a subjective language, but it's ascribed and it's a descriptor of something that actually is. What happens with mainstream science is when they start trying to explain what something is. You know, like, you know, me picking this up. Oh well, there was a transference of energy and these particles and blah blah blah. I mean, where is all that stuff? Energy and particles, and what are they talking about? You know, that's what I'm saying. I can describe an object, I can describe behaviour, but then they try and explain why the object is, what the object is, why it went down like this, and they come out with these fucking fairy tales. Yes, that's Marty himself.
No, can you see me?
That's a delay, you'll see in a minute. There you go.
As we're touching on, for people to be objective, they need to remove opinions, they need to remove faith, they need to remove repetition, you know? They basically need to remove everything for their head and start from scratch again.
Yeah.
Or they're just being subjective.
Exactly.
If they want to talk about an objective world, then be objective.
Yeah. Well, using that as an example, when I interview people on the street, you know, they're claiming that they know objectively that the Earth's this sphere and blah blah, but then you get to the grounds of what that's based on, and it's based purely on the subjective because they've seen it on the TV, you know, blah blah blah. Well, as I say, their actual direct experience is something totally contrary to what they're being told about their experience. And that's how easy it is to enter into the subjective with people and warp their perceptions, and at the same time they're ignoring the objective component of their experience. A few people saying hello, Marty.
Hello. I can't see the chat fair here, so.
That's what you get for being camera shy.
Nah, no. It's because I've shaved. I no longer have my beard and tash.
Feeling naked.
No, I'm feeling in disguise. I grew it to go into disguise in the first place,
right.
So people wouldn't recognise me.
But
But you seen yourself because of the way the beard was and the twizzlies and the tash. People are like, oh, there's Marty. Well, I'll shave it off and they'll recognise me again.
That's it.
My beard was never objective. And just like you're saying as well, obviously we need a consensus so we can, even if it's just a descriptor of the tool or whatever,
Yeah.
we do need a consensus so that we can be objective in a certain sense to a conversation,
Yeah.
you know?
That's
You know, the thing I was telling you about a few years ago, when I was a kid growing up, there were certain cartoons, and the one I always go back to is the one there was a king was wanting a new bed.
yeah,
So he done tippy toes with his feet and says, oh well, it's 9 feet long
yeah,
that I need the size of my bed so that I can fit in it comfortably. But the person who was making the bed wasn't actually a person, it was a cat.
yeah.
So the cat with its wee tiny paws, his wee feet done 9 feet. So the king's like, my bed's too wee. But the cat's like, well, it's 9 feet.
Yeah.
Hence the reason we need consensus of what is a foot.
Yeah.
So we've got the same thing that we can all work with.
Exactly. So when we create a metric system, it's a man-made device, but if we have a consensus on an objectivity, like a spacing, you know, that is in the objective world that we can define, then, you know, we have an agreement on that. But the problem with language these days is that there is no definite objectivity to language.
The problem with language nowadays is they're changing the definitions of every fucking word under the sun.
That's the point I was just going to get to.
Sorry.
You know, no, it's alright. There's so many definitions that can mean so many different things now, and as we've seen through the whole COVID debacle, you know, the definitions of words were changed, and terminologies, the definitions were changed to suit an agenda. So, you know, where's the objectivity in the use of language there if they're just willy-nilly changing the definitions to suit their agenda? You know? That's for me why we have to be cautious, especially when we're asking objective questions about how we use language. And that's the downfall of the globe earth, because the globe earth is based purely in the realms of language. There is nothing objective about globe earth or any of that, you know, narrative, you know, the universe 14.5 billion years ago. There's nothing objective about that. It's all based in storytelling, and as we've pointed out before, the use of sophistry. So you can use language to convey things to people, to dupe them into accepting things that are not true.
It's a form of legalese, isn't it?
Legalese is a perfect example.
Right. You've already got a preconception in your head of what the definition of a word means. Somebody uses that word, you're drawn into, oh, that's what they're meaning,
Yeah.
and in fact it can mean the complete opposite,
Yeah.
and you've just signed away to it.
Let's look at the two classics, you know, a summons and the use of the word you must.
Must and
So
summons.
when we're coming from that kind of corporate world, when they use this language, a summons is merely an invitation, but to the common man and woman, summons means a demand. You should be here. You are demanded to appear. And the other word is must. In their world,
In
where
the Black's Law Dictionary, must is synonymous with may.
yep. So
But it's not just a case of turning and saying, oh, you're using legalese and you're speaking to somebody and then you're trying to use your normal English definitions. They're using legalese definitions and you're just going to tie yourself in knots by even trying to speak to these people.
yeah, exactly.
That's just a different sideline or the other.
Yeah. So language is a treacherous, you know, thing, and it really has to be, you know. And if I had my way, somebody was asking if you were God for one day. Well, every conversation I ever had with anybody would be slowed down and broken down into its components to see what we're actually discussing. Too many people just chatter. And it's filled with so many, you know, fallacious logic, reasoning, assumptions, you know, just a conversation at the shop, at the local shop in the morning with a neighbour is filled with so much assumption, you know. Mandatory is another one, exactly.
Aye. Mandatory.
And we see the use of that in like common law and commercial, you know, where these things are applicable, you know, mandatory, summons, must, you know.
But then to take that down a completely different avenue, then it boils down to consent.
Yeah.
And because they've manipulated the language so much, you don't even know you're consenting, but they can still manipulate it so that they're still in the right.
Yeah.
And next time you're getting hobbled away, you know, terrorised
Yeah.
by your government and police just because you don't understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
You think you're saying something completely normal
Yeah.
and they're twisting it around a bit.
That's another great point that we touched on earlier. You know, the use of words and language like that, like, you know, defining a terrorist, you know, and the actions and the behaviours when we have government, because government's denoted as government and terrorist is denoted as terrorist, people think that they're two separate things. But as I always say, never mind the signifier, the language that's used for them. Look at the contents of them and see what the similarities are. So however you're defining a terrorist, look at the contents of what a terrorist is. Coercion, violence, manipulation, blah blah blah. Then look at what your government does. Right? And it's the exact same.
Yeah. Don't pay your taxes, see what happens.
Exactly. But under these fluffy words, people have got different avenues of what they think it represents. It's the same.
Larkin Rose is good for getting into detail about the kind of things.
Yeah.
Because I mean, years and years ago, we concerning Larkin Rose, and it was the first time I'd heard him, and he was like that, right? Use all me money. Well, you don't believe me? I'll write it in a bit of paper for you. There you go. Or is the paper no fancy enough? If I go to the headline, no, I am from the government, you owe me money.
Yeah.
The way you broke all that right down, and I was like that's so logical.
Yeah.
Just because it's in a fancy bit of paper means it's right. Because it comes from a fancy person in a uniform, suddenly it's right and objective.
That's part of the training of this cult, isn't it? That's done from childhood, and being bred into that type of mentality. We laughed at this before. It got that absurd that you still see it to this day. If you put a high vis vest on, right, you can see it in people. There's this automatic signifier that you're some sort of authority, and you see it in their demeanour, their mannerisms, and the way they approach you and the way they speak. You take that back off again, and there's a total different interaction.
Like a guy at B&Q, maybe, we were having to stand in a queue outside, and he's walking about as if he's a security guard, because he had a high vis on. 10 minutes later, you see him inside the shop, he's high vis off, he's like, how can I help you?
Exactly. But they step into these roles, it's almost like people know that there's this psychology. They may not be consciously aware of it, but there's some sort of, and as soon as they put the high vis, they try and fulfil the role.
They become a character.
They become it. Because
Mr. Ben.
Because everybody's aware that there's these things going on.
They become the uniform.
High vis authority or some sort of pervert. Well, again, back to this subjectivity. The war on terror. Again, that comes into somebody putting a comment about my video last night. Would you abused as a child? You display the marks. And my point back to that person is that every single one of us has been abused as children. Every single one is. Because you're born into a cult system that's subverting everything, filling you with fucking utter nonsense, imposing beliefs in these types of structures in you, telling you barefaced lies from your parents to the authority, whether it be the school or the government or whoever it is. I mean,
you've been threatened with violence if you didn't.
And you've been threatened with violence if you don't toe the line. I mean, if that's no abuse, I don't know what is. Again, it's back to this signifier abuse. Straight away in people's minds, they jump to kiddie fiddling. Abuse just means that some guy or woman's abused sexually another child or
that's
whatever. That's
part and parcel of the indoctrination of growing up as well. They give you a certain word, but then they give you an image to match that word, so that every time you hear that word, that image appears in your head.
That's the signifier, right. Exactly, and that's
immediately
what people jump to. And from there they blind themselves into what their own experience has been. And it's not until you break it down and you point it out to them, well, you've been lied to, you've been manipulated, you've been abused violently because you never done what a assumed authority told you to do, And then they're acting out from their own neurotic fucking emotional impulses, like a father figure who deludes himself into thinking he's some sort of superior authority, dictating the way he wants things to be, and if you don't behave then slap, 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 slap.
Right.
I mean,
Like getting brought up like an old telly, wasn't it? If the old telly didn't work the way you wanted it, just hit it.
brute force of ignorance, you know. So of course, for me, every single human being alive right now has been abused in some form or another.
Whether it's
And,
mentally
and, it's,
or
and,
physically.
and for me, it does a disservice, and it's dangerous to give credence to, you know, oh, well, sexual abuse is this kind of abuse, but this abuse is here. No, abuse is abuse. It's fucking wrong, and it's a detriment to us as a whole. Just have a look round about you right now. I mean, everybody's suffering from the effects of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
But they've still got these mantras. This is life. This is the way it is. This is blah, blah, blah.
And they've got their poster child of abuse, you know, so that other people don't feel as abused.
Exactly.
You know, no, this person was abused, you weren't they?
Aye. Show these most extreme cases so that it lessens, you know, the impact of what you've experienced to the point of your denial.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, that was just life. That was just my parents. That was just the education system. That was just.
Oh,
You know,
that's
Stockholm
it, so-
syndrome. You're making excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this thing again, I'm just going to talk about it quickly. This place must have been created, so there must be a higher power, in my humble opinion. Right. We just spoke about opinions, but deducing from, you know, the objective that nothing comes from nothing, and if we're part of something, then the something must have been given rise to from something else. It's fine to say that, and there's no anyone of us here that disagrees with that. The problem that people have is because in their subjective bias, they have a want for that other thing to be, you know, a representative of whatever they hold dear to them. So it has to be a loving deity, this, that and the other. People start ascribing these desires of want for what this creator must be. And I keep saying, well, objectively, I don't see that represented. I see a wide varying spectrum of behaviours and attributes. So all these things must have came from that, you know. As I say, people have a subjective bias through probably a religious indoctrination where they as soon as we talk about creators, they're trying to defend and promote their notion of what that is. So objectively, you know, utilising what we have, we can agree, well, it came from something. That's the objective part. Subjectively, people are now going to start telling stories about what that thing is. And I don't think there's a place for that, to be honest with you, in my opinion. So I'm entitled to my opinion.
Oh, you fuck.
Well, I just said it, so.
Oh, dear. Yeah, subjectively you're calling it your opinion. Objectively it's a perspective that always existed and always will, and you've just jumped on that bandwagon.
It's no, it's mine. I printed the t-shirts.
When you should say that, I think it was Eye Level Awakening was on the chat last night, and he put up I put up a comment saying you're talking about psychopaths and that,
Yeah.
and I just put up a cross on it. A psychopath is what I ride my bike on. It's just that I think it's Eye Level Awakening came back and says I used to print that on t-shirts.
Aye.
So I was well, I want my royalties.
I thought the banner on. I didn't mean to cut in on somebody else's, you know, broadcast time. Apologies for that.
What's up?
Well, somebody was saying about another live thing there, I think. It's Flat Earth banner that comes here. It's ratings wars. Marty's your man for the grammar aspect. I think that's why, you know, in use of grammar, it has to be very concise.
Oh, it has to be.
You know, because there's a problem, and I get, you know, there's grammar policing for the average man like me. I'm no fussed on grammar policing because, you know, my ability, I can, you know, see through it. But trying to just read, you know, I was never into the education part of grammar properly, but I can see it as a
hated it through school.
But I can see it as a defining tool if used correctly. You know, we can convey things in the appropriate manner, which not a lot of people utilise, especially today. You know,
if you don't use grammar correctly, then you're leaving the other person open to assumption and what they think you're saying.
Yeah, but again, I would defend that and say that's the case in two peoples who have the same, you know, level of comprehension of grammar. So like somebody at your level, you can convey, and if you make an error, they can misinterpret what you're saying because they're reading it at that level.
Aye.
And not everybody's at that level, which is why, you know, there's a problem there. And I think it's even more prevalent today, which is why I think it's massively important for us to establish grounds when we're just having...
Even years ago when I used to have a phone, you know, people wouldn't send me texts because I'd be like, I fucking missed an apostrophe, stop, it's a capital letter, actually been a used paragraph. I'm fucking sending you another text. Fucking's got a G at the end. If you're looking at the G there, you need to put an apostrophe above.
Marty the grammar geek.
Oh no, Polis. It's just, to me, it makes things more objective. You know, that's my whole point on grammar.
That is, in an ideal world, universally we would have one language and it would be definite and it would be applied and used.
Just you say that, that's another reason that we're tricked. Because they're told us that dictionaries give you the definitions.
Yeah.
Like, definition comes from definite.
Yeah.
So they're showing you these words and that's what it definitely means.
Yeah.
We're all consensus agreed that this. Then you work at words like set, which has got like 80 different meanings.
Yeah.
Run's got about 60 different meanings.
Yeah.
You're like, so how's this defining?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And relevant to the topic, you know, level, as we've established, you know, there's a level that's utilised practically in the objective world, but mathematically in the language-based world we can redefine it, and level can now mean something totally different from what we apply objectively. And that's one of the, you know, the big things with that whole topic of the globe, flat earth, and geometry. Perfect example for it.
See, when you touch on geometry again, that's when he starts going about island, because people don't understand the difference between 3D and 2D.
Yeah.
They've got everything wrote on a flat sheet of paper,
Yeah.
and they're portraying it as 3D.
Yeah. Well, that was a good thing that Gav had highlighted, that a lot of the mathematics in regards to the globe are two-dimensional. You know.
Oh, it works enough like that.
Exactly. And they try and, you know, project and state that these things are actually part of the three-dimensional world. As I've said before, the globe Earth is conceptual, it's not an object. If it was an object, it would have a direct measure and you would have practical demonstrations to support what is objective, which it doesn't have, you know. So that they have to use language to manipulate, you know, like redefining level or employing a certain definition of level. And as I said before, mathematically in the use of language it's correct, but when we apply it to objective reality it's not correct, because that's not the definition of what we use.
See, maths has got a lot to answer for mathematics, because it's just a language.
Yeah.
It's not defining. I've spoken about that before. To me, if you want defining, go back to arithmetic.
Yeah.
Follow your fancy mathematical equation describing how cornflakes get soggy when you put milk in. You know, unless you can actually put physical integers in there to replace and convert it into arithmetic, it's gobbledygook.
Exactly. Exactly.
It took
Exactly.
me a while to realise that mathematics was actually just a language.
Exactly.
You know, going through school I thought it was super duper. I can do this with X and Y's and Z's and lambdas and pi. Oh, look at me.
Aye.
What you doing? Colouring by numbers, Martin. That's all you were doing, colouring by numbers.
Well, that was the earliest highlights that we put on the channel here, was explaining that to people, that mathematics is a formal science. It's in the realms of language. And you can see that it was deliberately elevated. You know, look in recent times where they had the promotion and elevation of mathematicians, you know, and predominantly mathematicians with storylines of our existence, the universe, where it came from, how it began, where it's gone. You know, that's just storytelling. As Mark says, there's no integers there, there's nothing that's ascribed to actual physical reality. But they elevated it, superseded the natural sciences, that being of the objective world, because they knew they were pushing these agendas. That's my take on it, that's how I see it. There might be beings beyond us, beings that are supernatural, and they hide themselves very well. I know I sound crazy and I have no way to prove it, but I have seen the works in mysterious ways. Again, CID guy, that's a discussion that we can have, that's no objective.
Subjective interpretation.
Yep.
Which is fine. I mean, I love hypotheticals.
Exactly.
As long as people don't take them into the real world and go, this is real,
Yeah.
this is the truth.
Or you know, why I constantly, you know, put a line in the sand with regards to these things is to make that clear, because as soon as, if I was to sit here and we were to start talking about the possibility of other beings and blah blah, automatically people hearing that are
Like, you're pushing this.
aye, that they're starting to interpret that we're representatives of this possibility, because people are like that because of this Hegelian dialectic, this divide and rule. Anything that's spoken about, you must be a representative of that because you're talking about it. You know?
Rather than just hypothetical conversations.
But as I say, I mean, objectively we can point and say, well, there is a metaphysical world, because show me your emotions.
I'll send them to you, I'll post them.
Show me your consciousness.
I'll post that to you as well.
Show me your thoughts.
My box big enough around me.
But we know we have these things.
Correct.
We know objectively they're there because we can talk about them to each other, you know. But try and show them objectively, it's not there. So it's not a denial of a metaphysical aspect or component of reality. It's just that the only thing we have to our use is language to convey, you know, my experience. Well, when I was a kid, I experienced these things and blah 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 blah, and you can convey that to me, and we can go, oh well, there might be something there, but that's as far as it goes.
Just you talk about emotions, that's one of the biggest tools that's used against us.
Yeah.
Everything's got to be emotional. Think of the children.
Yeah. That is it. The whole manipulation works on playing on the emotions of people.
Which are subjective.
Yeah, because people think emotions are, you know, for me I identify emotions as signifiers of my workings in regards to whatever may be going on, you know.
Like the wee engine management light on your dashboard.
Yeah.
You know, flashes, oh right, I need to do something here.
Yeah.
Or I don't need to do something, that's letting me know that something's no right. So it's the same with your emotions. Your emotions will come across you and you'll be like, something's no right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it real. It's just
Yeah.
a guide. It doesn't make it so you've got to act upon
Aye,
it.
it's a signifier of your relationship to a particular thing.
Well, I'm feeling angry, so I'm going to go out on a violent rampage and stab folk.
Yeah.
I'm not actually before that was a hypothetical statement.
And again, when we talk about these things, emotions, you know, you can categorise it as balanced emotions, irrational emotion, you know, impulsive emotions. There's varying complexities to these things, and it's a massive, you know, cesspool of thought and chat to go on in amongst that. No, the rug's been here for a long time. Thanks for noticing.
He's hoovered.
Shh. Shush you, doesn't look like that on the camera. He's giving away the fucking secrets here. Well, tell him what the fourth wall looks like, go.
The fourth one?
It's a camera queue in the Illuminati with their fucking cue cards telling us what to say.
Aye. So I think you were saying last night concerning like the psychopath to the empath,
Yeah.
and how we're all part of that spectrum and utilising it. And I was like, you know, I like to play with things, and I was along the lines of, well, it's like 1984 v the pleasure principle. You know, 1984, everything's totally controlled, everybody's downbeat and everything else. You know, total dystopian, and nobody wants that. But it's the exact same. I'm not sure if Brave New World's along a similar line, where everything's just all happy and everything else.
Yeah.
And that would just annoy the feck right out of me as well.
Exactly.
You know, as you're saying, go to have the balance in the middle,
Yeah.
so you can fluctuate with either.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just working yourself, no pure, can't even hedonism,
Yeah.
you know, then you're still losing
Yeah.
the opposite. I hate using words like opposite. Another perspective,
Aye.
you know, rather than just the dualism.
Use a guitar, an instrument as an example. You know, people can get stuck in a particular part that they like or they've learned, but there's a whole spectrum to that. But predominantly they emanate from one part, and they can build and they can bridge and they can learn new aspects. They don't go, well, I just play pentatonic, so I'm going to eradicate major and minors and blah 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 because my fuses likes pentatonic. That's just the workings of fucking lunatics. Big Red, you were talking about, we spoke about that, but metric systems, you know, where things have to be established. Marty used the story of the king wanting a bed and stating that he wants the bed to be 9 feet based on his feet, but the constructor of that had tiny feet and built it 9 feet. So when we utilise metric systems, there has to be an objective agreement on what we're talking about, you know, what a centimetre is and how we define it, what's the spacings, the integers, and that's what we apply.
Make it objective.
Yeah.
So when somebody says a foot, it means a foot to
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if I was the one to come up with it, a foot would be based on my foot, then that becomes the standard. And then universally everybody applies that, you know. Standardisation, exactly, Doreen Gray. But again, we know that it's a man-made construct, right? And we agree on that, right? But it can become useful for us to describe, you know, objectivity, and we put it to use in construction and whatever else, and it works for us in that regard.
Whereas it wouldn't work if everybody was using 12-inch foot,
Yeah.
and then somebody says, no, 10 inches a foot.
Yeah.
You know, it was only the same with Concorde when the French and the British were building Concorde back in the 60s and 70s, and it was the British were using metric or imperial, but the French were using the completely different. So when they try and get their two components together, there was a mismatch,
Right.
just because they were using different systems.
You still see that, you know, like in the gym we get these machines in and they're American, so it's a different metric system. So the threadings for certain bolts and nuts are off by just slightly, but it's enough to cause, you know, not to work for you. And then you can see the problem. If we don't have a universal metric, then, you know, we're going to have these problems arising. It's the same with language, the spoken word.
Has to be objective to progress.
Yeah, so this is why I say, you know, you don't have to form an academic process or any of that. For me, what it comes down to is an individual. So any discussion I have with anybody, I have to have the ability to stop the conversation and agree on first principles, as we spoke about before. What do you mean by that word? What context is that? And but, you know, again, people just run away chatting, and people are hearing what they want to hear, waiting for their turn to speak, and communications are pretty much like that. There's nothing definite in it, which is why I get bored and why I'm a bit introverted and antisocial, because the mundane chitter chatter of the mentally ill just does nothing for me. You know, and again, I'm not saying that from a place of judgment that I think I'm better than them. You know, it just does nothing for me. Whereas people can go down the pub, drink and chatter about fucking gibberish, and they feel content with that. That's up to them. That's their subjective preference.
It's another thing that people have forgot about, because it's just been wiped off everything they read or whatever. The right to disassociate.
Yeah.
You know, that's a separate topic yet again. You know, because people think, oh, you've got to listen to me. You know, no, I don't need to listen to anybody. Or you just label me all you want, but at the end of the day, I'm disassociating.
Aye. It's the same with these fuckwits that come here, as if they've been forced to come here and pay attention and listen. You know, no. Forget where I was going with that. It's your fault for digressing into
I
other
know.
topics.
I'll just sit here and drink my straight vodka.
I one man, he's detected it does absolutely nothing for me. The majority of these types of social interactions are pissing contests, narcissistic type people who are trying to fucking outdo each other and, you know, score points on the stature ladder to some imaginary invisible audience that's keeping tabs and scores.
As if it's all about one-upmanship.
Yeah.
Sad. How do you learn with one-upmanship? Because then, you know, somebody's going to win at the end of it.
Yeah.
It's the same as we've always said that I ask plenty of questions. I don't want answers.
Yeah.
But you get these imbeciles out here, oh well, it's because of this. I'm like, oh, interesting. You think I've no thought of your perspective beforehand. I'm just constantly questioning.
Aye.
And people are like, it's dead simple, and I'm like that. How do all these idiots know so much?
But that was
And they've never questioned.
That's exactly what I played on with the street interviews because of that that mannerism of people. As soon as if you approach people from asking a question, they automatically assume this role of you being a little lost soul, and they're going to enter into the saviour know-all role and provide you with an answer. And it's the perfect way to get people to trip up, you know. So again, that was a manipulation formulated from my part based on that understanding of exactly that, you know. People want to give you an answer because they want to feel like they've saved you.
I'm beyond saving.
What was that point there? I wanted to just see that again. Big Red, objectivity can then become subjectivity, as you were saying, from the size of the person, wrist to the elbow. One person's objectivity becomes different to another's because someone else made the rules. Exactly, that's why we have to have an agreement. And again, that's in regards to a metric and us, you know, ascribing metrics to the objective world. Again, it doesn't define the objective world or any of the components within it. It's just us utilising tools to your benefit, like constructing homes, bridges, you know, canals, whatever the fuck we're up to. It becomes useful to us, but it has no bearing on what reality actually is, nor does it define or get us closer to what reality actually is.
And there is an international standardised units.
Yeah.
They usually say it in French, you know, but the ISU, as I call it, International Standard of Units, so that everybody knows where everybody else is at. It keeps it objective.
Let the ego battles begin. Yep. Any nightclub, pub, fucking any, you know, 95% of the social gatherings you want to go to, that's exactly what's going on.
Aye.
Yeah. They'd be as well just stripping off, flexing their muscles, getting their cocks out, seeing how big it is, counting their money on the table. I mean,
because that's the kind of things that make a human being.
Exactly. That's just how human beings are defining themselves.
That's correct. Cock size and money.
Aye. You're a sapiosexual, Del. Shit. Don't even know what that means, but it sounds funny. Do you know what that means? Sapiosexual?
No. I don't know what a homo sapien.
Is this a new fucking gender identification? We just invented a new one. We'll make a banner.
I've seen a cracking meme, right, not just when you say about that, and it was this picture of this slightly overweight girl, she would call her, and she's got up and she's saying, well, I'm a pansexual, and somebody put underneath, yeah, you love anybody with a frying pan.
It's difficult to see Rick as Vatican, isn't it? You know, waiting for something that resembles an uprising to begin. And as I said before, there is a semblance of uprising, but it's been coordinated and fucking controlled. Left, right and centre. As I said right at the beginning of this, you know, you bet your arse that, you know, there's an awakening happening, but it's a controlled awakening with a predestined, you know, destination. I need to go and grab a drink. You can fucking chat. Marty's going to keep you entertained, right?
I'm getting nothing.
Just going to sit there.
Aye.
You can read the comments section and...
No, that means I've got to
See
be
you,
in
man.
front of the camera.
About 2 seconds, just grabbing a drink, you want it?
No, I have my water. We'll call this the intermission, so we'll need ourselves a cup of tea or whatever.
There's a Michelle in the kitchen.
Is there?
What have I missed?
Don't know, I just see there's an intermission. Go get a cup of tea.
To sing a song?
Nah.
Have we get questions?
You say there's a shell in the kitchen, did I ever tell you I took a shell off a snail to see if it would go faster? But it became more sluggish. Terrible, I know.
Flatzoid, hello.
There was a few comments going through when you were away though, if you want to.
People were asking you to dance.
I've no dance for I gave up the Chippendales.
So, if has anybody got any questions or any they want to add to this notion of objective subjective? Is there anything that's unclear? Create belief, it all comes down to this: what are nuclear weapons? How do we define what a nuclear weapon is, and do they actually exist? I think they've got what they call tactical nukes, which are just bombs.
Big bombs.
I understand that subjectiveness can't be proven, but if it's considered, then you might see it for yourself. But that's the point. See, the subjective, you know, realms. We can have conversations with each other, and we have our own preferences, like we spoke about earlier. Like there's certain sports, Marty has a preference for. There's certain sports I have a preference for. But that doesn't mean to say we have to be opposed to each other, or that we can't have a friendship at any other level. I mean, it's subjectivity is purely that. We can have the discussions, and again, we've been as open as anybody. There's nothing that I'm going to say that's rubbish or that's not real or blah blah. I'm an open-minded person to any possibility, but I'm going to make a defining line between my experience of what I call objective life and what's going on in my subjective life.
But see if the subject is proven to be true, does that not make it objective?
Sorry.
Just me saying, if the subjective is proven to be true, does that not therefore make it objective?
Well, it just depends what we're talking about. I think we'd have to be specific.
I've just gone
Have you got an idea or something? Like,
no, just with he says about that comment there. If subjective is proven.
Mm-hmm. We're looking at how microchips are created. I haven't done that rabbit hole, and I'm going to get back to it. It starts for me from, you know, the early recordings of vibration, like how did we come up with cassettes and blah blah blah. Pragmatic. If flat earth became mainstream, what would replace such a mind-altering paradigm? I think it's protected for this reason: education first, then demolition. Again, I've spoken openly about that. We know nothing about what's going on here. A lot of this could be being done because it's a necessity. Again, we don't have the full picture to know exactly what's surrounding us and why we're here. But I know you know that anyway. But back to that point again, I mean, it's not like we're sitting here omitting the whole subjectivity. It's about clarifying. Like, if we're asking the question, where are we here? Right? We're asking a question in an objective manner. It's the objective that's the question. We're not asking who made it, what was the reason, blah blah blah. Right? We're just trying to establish what actually is, and we're being told that it's something that's contrary to what we experience and what we apply in a practical fashion in everyday life. So it's not that we're omitting the whole of subjectivity like it's irrelevant. It's totally relevant, but no one ever coming to the question of what's objective.
I mean, you get to the objective, you've got to go through the subjective.
Of course.
It's the basic scientific method.
Aye.
What starts off with subjective theories.
Exactly, but that comes into the realms of conveying. So like me, if I'm isolated myself in the world and I've got nobody else here, I just experience what is and put to use, like, well, there's a brick that resembles more roundness, so I know it rolls easier, blah blah blah. But the minute I start trying to convey that, then I'm in the subjective because I'm using language and trying to convey what I'm conveying to you. But if I gave you a square brick and a round brick and I go, there's no language there. No. You know fine well, practically, that moves easier than the fucking square brick. So I totally agree, and I think that's maybe the point that some people are making. When we're conveying these things to each other, we're using subjectivity, which is what we established at the beginning. The use of language, it is a subjective thing.
I mean, the majority of folk that profess to being awakened and such, like, their whole purpose, shall we call it, becomes finding the truth.
Yeah.
No, you'll never do that subjectively.
Yeah.
You know, because you're always left with it could be this, could be that. It's subjective.
Yeah.
So if you're chasing the truth, you need to be objective.
Yeah. And I think that's what people are missing. We're not looking for the truth of who, what, why created this place. For me, I'm just trying to establish what the place actually is, so that there's no requirement for stories to be added to that. It's just a matter of exploring what actually is.
But for the day you're born, you're told what it is. And then you live that experience and you're like, this isn't really what it is.
And that's where people get stuck, because they've been told what something is, and when they realise, well, that's a falsity, they're looking for some other story of what it is.
Aye, and then they'll grab that comfortable.
Exactly, and they're missing the point. Those are the boys, which colour of slippers did Dorothy wear? Were they red?
No, that was the shoes she bought for the witch.
Or was it? much I pay attention to The Wizard of Oz.
Is that somebody going doing the child sacrifice route, as in they apparently all wear red shoes?
Might be. That's it, be unbelievable. We're objective every single day because without thought we apply ourselves in the objective world. As I said, for me it's only when we try and convey to each other it becomes treacherous. I don't know where we are now with this. We've kind of established it pretty much. People are engaging in other stuff there. You get anything you want to add to this?
Nah. Me, I just like to tag along.
Aye.
I've got nothing of real importance to tell anybody. Everybody's got their own importance.
Aye. So I say, you see the relevance of this with this whole topic. You know, you watch some of these debate things and it's straight into, well, how do you explain gravity? How do you explain this? How do you explain that? Blah, blah, blah. There's no people going, stop. What is it we're asking here? What's it based upon? Can we get some grounds to agree upon before we move forward and have a kind of standard that we're setting so that we can refer back and know exactly where we're at? It doesn't seem to happen like that. It's pretty much just the same as the chit chat that happens in the pub. People just start bombarding each other with all sorts of fucking irrelevant gish gallop.
You know, but to start a conversation with people, I mean, as you say, you need a premise of where everybody's coming from.
Yeah.
You know, rather than just, as you say, just everybody thrown in gish gallop.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
that always says people want to talk to you, but how do you put it close to folk? You want a wee chat? What do you want to do? You want to talk with, talk to, or talk at?
Yeah.
You know, and that just throws people for fuck's sake, want a conversation.
Yeah.
Are you just going to talk at me? You're going to talk with me?
That's the whole point of debate, you know, it's just people coming from their bias and spouting things to support their bias. There's no resolve in any of that, and it's certainly no what I would identify as any sort of proper scientific progression. It's needy, insecure types with a fucking religious bias that want everybody else to adhere to their beliefs and practices, and that's
or if
just...
they don't, they'll do their damnedest to shut them down.
Exactly. And they use all sorts of manipulation to try and poison you in the eyes of other people, to, you know, all sorts of, you know, vicious behaviour goes on.
You know yourself, the amount of hypothetical conversations we've had with no boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, we were in the realms of fucking 7D and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, people are, they're just a pair of nutters.
Yeah.
You know, they've not got a clue what they're talking about. It's a hypothetical conversation.
Yeah.
Or all the ones I've had to deal with, you know, they'll start a hypothetical conversation and you know yourself, I've not got boundaries.
Yeah.
So I'll just take it to any extreme I want. Oh, you're not taking this serious. It's a hypothetical conversation.
But what that tells you is that the hypothetics that they're promoting is something that they believe or want to be true. So they want you to stay rigid within that parameter, as you say. If you
stay within my boundaries.
You take it to the extreme. Exactly. Somebody wants to start a hypothetical conversation and you take it to the extreme, and then they say, "Oh, you're too fuck." Well, where's the lines of hypothetical conversation then?
I just say to folk all the time, remove your beliefs, remove your opinion, remove your faith, remove your hope, get real, because they're all self-deluding concepts.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
What's the dead horse worth flogging? Again, Ben v. Eubank don't have all the facts. Again, we see this whole thing again where people don't know the actual full facts, but all of a sudden we've got this kangaroo court now jumping on bandwagons and people taking sides and perspectives and blah blah blah, and I'm just waiting for the actual facts to be established. John McVeigh, hello. Paula, Poncho, Sophia, we don't know what we're talking about here. How will we know what the actual facts are though? That's a problem, Flatzoid. It's, you know, humans are trying to convey, describe, explain what reality is, and this is where it's fraught with problems, because again, having to separate it, there's a difference between the experiential part and, you know, how we're trying to convey and interpret the experiential part. As I've always said, you know, at the experiential level we don't experience motion, you know, we experience what we call a level flat horizon, and that's about it. We're not experiencing spin, wobble, rotation, curvature, and it becomes very difficult, which is why I focus purely on the claims that are being made. You know, it's always been the globe earth that's making the claim. Modern day times we've got other people from different, you know, propositions making claims, but I can only ask questions of claim to see where it's rooted in. As I say, I established with the globe earth that it was rooted in the use of sophistry, is rooted in the use of language, mathematics, and by asking questions of the claims that are being made, you whittle it down to what the foundation of it actually is. And you find that it's an interpretation, and a lot of these metrics that they've established are just axioms that are derived from, you know, nothing. You know, axioms that are useful to us are something that's coming, as Marty puts it, from integers that come from reality, you know, and then we can apply that in a practical fashion. But the problem is the conveyance, because it's using language. If you were isolated and you're the only person here, then you just experience what is. You wouldn't be bound and caught up in this trying to convey, you know, and formulate ways of conveying your interpretation. But that's the thing that people miss continually. As I say, you know, you get any globe earther in a globe flat earth debate and try and hammer them and stop the conversation to break it down into the fine details of what these things are founded on. There's no any people there that are endeavouring to try that. They just jump in. I'm a globe earther, I'm a flat earther. Oh, how do you explain gravity? How do you explain this? And blah, 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 counter and it's just a melting pot of uselessness. Go on then, prove to me within 5 seconds we didn't go to the moon. Can you prove a negative?
I've looked at a picture when I was there, so. Who's this we? Sorry, I'm not getting to the person who says that, but it's just one of the comments. We. I'm like, when was that there?
Exactly. Another aspect of this language that's utilised that ties people up. And
it's like we have conversations and I'll use words like you, but you're aware I'm not meaning you directly. Yeah. I'm just using you as a term, you know. But other folk like, what you saying about me? No, I'm just using you as a term. I'm not directing it at you personally here.
Exactly. So that's another thing that people miss, you know, the burden. Well, a claim is being made that people went to the moon. If I look at that claim and I see that there's problems and contradictions there, I don't have to disprove anything.
No.
They have to convince me. If you make an affirmed claim to me, it's your duty and responsibility to support that. This quick flip of reversal of burden is bizarre.
the people that will jump on that will be the folk that have got biased.
But I think John McVeigh's just making a point here, you know. He's not actually, I don't think he's actually meaning it in seriousness. I think we've taken it out of context there just by seeing the other comments.
That guy put up the wee. I did say at the time, I was getting him personally, it's just that term wee.
Aye.
It's when people, there's one person standing there and they try and make themselves a group.
Aye. As I always say to people, unless you can provide for me some sort of medical certificate that states you're suffering from some form of multiple personality disorder, then don't use words like we. You see that in the interviews, you know, again, it's the academics, university students, and they're coming out with this stuff. Well, when we went to the moon in 1960, you weren't even fucking born. In fact, your dad probably wasn't even fucking born.
I was. I feel old.
For fuck's sake. Look at Dale constantly doing the pyramid hand symbol 33 and his email is also 33.
Oh, you just covered one eye there.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, no, mate. Never meant it.
I was a mason for a year.
Yeah.
I said I was a mason.
Were
for a
you?
year. Aye.
You sure about that?
Aye. And I turned 34. That's what I spoke about as well. People, they just come out with all these different points of blame. You know, it's Jesuits, it's Ashkenazim Jews, it's Freemasons, it's the Pope, it's the Black Pope, it's the Black Royalty, it's this, that. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my god.
Yeah, no. It's back to that perpetuation of the victim mind.
Exactly.
You know, but you know what a way to perpetuate. You know, these people that spout this stuff are actually part of the problem, because they're promoting that people should remain in a victim mindset and look outwards to somebody to blame for their state of mind.
Right.
Your state of mind is your responsibility. You know, it's not the Freemasons or the Jesuits or any of the stuff that Marty just listed. It's your responsibility.
Yeah, it's the individual's responsibility to be aware, so they're not open to being led by others.
Right. John, I would love to come and visit Thailand and many other places.
Make that two.
Aye.
Single tickets, I'm no one to return.
Exactly. Look at this shit, I mean, it's fucking never ending misery. Well, if anybody wants to join in, you can send me an email. I don't know how long you're
What time's it now?
for. 10 to 3.
I need to get my meds at 3.
Feel some actual sun, that would be great. And Marty will be scooting away shortly. If anybody wants to join me here, I'm going to stay on for a while. I've got nothing else to do. Send me an email. The other aspect of that is don't do anything, wait for a saviour, exactly. As I was talking about last night, you can point at the Jesuits and the Freemasons and call them evil, this, that and the other, but they're just utilising the tools that you have. You know, so don't bitch, whine and moan about it, just start using your own tools and affect change in whatever way you want. Aye, the water's filtered. Lucky you, create belief. We've had fuck all but misery for the last 2 weeks. Seen had a great day in Ireland. I emailed you a while back, Dale, from Glasgow, Georgia. Listen, I'll apologise right now and make it clear, people that are missing their emails, I've got an aversion to emails.
You just say spoke to email, yeah.
I mean, when I'm here, if you email me when I'm here, then there's a high probability that I'm going to see it and I'm going to read it. But if I get up on a Sunday morning and I go to my emails and I've got 10 emails and they're big long-winded things, then no, because I don't want to speak to people, I just don't have the attention span or the will to sit there and type for 2 hours on a Sunday morning.
Two hours is a quick email for me.
Just check. I've got Paul Barnes, awfully upset. Paul Barnes messaged me saying, "You're a shill and an evil little cunt beyond even my comprehension." Comparison, I think he meant even my. I thought it was meant to say comprehension. Who knows? "I'll tell you what, you little cunt. Let's do it. I will fight you. Let's organise it. We can let everyone watch for free. I will rip your limbs off." This boy lives in a cartoon world, watching too many fucking CGI movies.
And obviously Might is right, you know.
Aye. I don't like you. Yeah, I'm going to rip your limbs off. Let's do it live online. Let's hire a gym and stream it live. I will meet you halfway. Let's say Carlisle. See, it's this kind of attitude, like, see if I've got a problem with somebody, I don't phone them up and say, "Right, you bastard, this, that, and the other." No, my demands are that you meet me halfway and this and that and the other. No, you just show up and chat the door. You fucking mong. Right? So that's what I said back to him. Anytime we sacks, stop acting like Craig and just show up. So now I've just see I've got a whole new spouting. Arrange it then, you fucking shill. So we've got a guy who's coming at me, telling me he's going to do this, that and the other, but no, I have to arrange it. Sitting there doing your faggot Masonic diamond with your 33 email above your head. I'm sure it says 77. I'm sure it's Abkeo 77. No Abkeo 33. Who knows? You fucking little cunt. You're nothing. You're nothing. You're no fucking influencer either. Well, I've influenced you, you fucking absolute inbred. You're here influenced by my presence. You get a couple thousand views in each video and most of them are globe trolls. I ousted you... What? I ousted you to thousands in seconds and they will spread the word. You can sit there influencing your own little Masonic minions because you're never going to convince anyone to join your... Well, what are you worried about then? If that's really who I am, and you're convinced that I'm not going to affect anybody, then why are you outing me to thousands of people? Surely you're just promoting me. I mean, is it just me? Or what? I mean, these people are that fucked in the brain. You ain't shit, you ain't hard, you have masquerade your insecurities by pumping iron, you probably inject steroids just to boost your ego, you ain't shit, I've knocked out bigger cunts than you fucking wet wipe. Haha, you absolute clown, look at you fucking Mr. Midlife Crisis going over the same shit week in, week out because you're not even worthy of calling a gatekeeper, you don't know fuck all shit, blah blah blah. For somebody that's put me down, I'm that insignificant, you've got a serious bee in your bonnet. You know? I see contradictory behaviours here. Chat the door.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a bit I never get. I've never understood, and I've seen it every day in my freaking life. Why do people always revert back to confrontation?
Aye.
How do you just discuss? Be objective. If it's a subjective topic, then nobody's right and nobody's wrong.
Exactly. Subjectivity you can just discuss. If it's subjective, then it's objective. Yeah. But it's this contradiction of, you know, you're nothing, you're this, you're insignificant, you're that, you're the other, but you're massively triggered by me. You know, it's like the globe earth. Flat earth's for a bunch of fringe lunatics, a minority of fringe lunatics. So what we're going to do is we're going to create 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year platforms to chastise, harangue and misrepresent these people. How does that compute in anybody's brain? I mean,
Well, go to stop you from influencing others.
aye. Shambles. I'm used to these kind of love letters, James. 5 years in jail. I know, I seen that recently. Was that when they're talking about this? Some wee girl that committed suicide because of the influence of social media and blah blah blah. And you know, and I asked that question. Says, well, where's our outcry? Where's our support network? Because we've been getting fucking this shit for 8 years nearly now, and then you've just witnessed there, you know, threats to my well-being and whatnot from some triggered little fucking snowflake.
Comment I put up last night as well is a case of be what you want to be, just don't demand it for others.
Aye. Aye.
But then again, the weaker mind, that'll work, you know.
Aye.
You know, they'll not be able to stand up against it, so they'll just start to shut themselves down.
Aye, because the weaker mind's scared of that kind of confrontation. So it has the effect, but for people like me it's just laughing material.
And I never understood as well, it's just my own person, how people can get affected by what somebody else types somewhere random.
Aye.
You know, like social media, you're a cunt, oh I better go and talk myself.
I know.
Some random fucking thing.
Yeah. But that's what they hope for, these kind of manipulators hope that people, I spoke about this a long time ago, you know, people that have an emotional attachment to like online, that's how it affects them, but people don't recognise that it's their doing because they've emotionally attached, they've made it a relevance in their life, they're making it something. So then when they get that kind of feedback back, it has an effect on them.
Because they've became their avatar.
Yep.
They've created this wee fake persona they need to try and live up to.
Yeah. I'm missing here.
When you yourself, I'm an absolutist when it comes to free speech. People can say whatever the fuck they want because words only violence.
Aye.
You know?
But that's the point, that's the bit I was missing. It was that Alex Belfield. You know, and I was saying, well, where's your justice then? Because we've been harangued and fucking harassed. I've had, you know, images of me and my kids put onto what looks like Pornhub and sent emails of these things. I mean, what about all that? I mean, all that's just to be forgotten about because, you know, it's this hypocrisy again where they demand justice and this and that for this. But if you're a flat earther or you're somebody that denies the globe, that doesn't matter then.
I mean, the whole Alex Belfield thing could just be a set up in its own right.
Aye.
People don't look at that, they just
No.
they fall into the duality.
Exactly.
That he deserves all he gets for speaking. Seriously. Was he enforcing free will on anybody? You know?
Aye.
Was he leaving a victim in his wake
Aye.
of harm, loss or injury?
Exactly. Well, look at Fight the Fat Tits. He spews nothing but hatred. you know, and talks about dropping people off of buildings and fucking this, that and the other. I mean, if that's
Well
not
done,
an influence...
You know?
Aye.
Because by putting that out there, as I say, let people speak.
Aye.
Because then anybody that's got any intelligence will look at statements that people have said and just says, nah, and they can use that right of disassociation
Exactly.
to cancel anything, to shut people down that's just wrong in all shapes and forms unless they're causing violence.
Exactly.
As soon as it crosses that line. I was watching Frost the other night, no, David Jason played that detective guy and he was chasing a paedophile and he eventually got him, but at the end the paedophile was whispering something into his ear, probably like, this is what I do to kids and things like that, so Frost decked him, you know, and I'm like that, he's crossed the line.
Aye.
You know, the other folk are like, but he deserved it because he was saying what he's got to do to kids and things like that, and I'm like, I don't care what people say, you know,
Exactly.
until it becomes a physical action there's no
Exactly.
recourse.
Exactly.
Let racists be racist, they'll expose themselves.
We grew up with that, these kind of rhymes, you know, sticks and stones,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it was so valid and it was so, what's the word I'm looking for? Poignant, you know, just that simple little thing that was missed. And it's the same with this whole debacle now where people are so attached, you know, this names and people getting emotionally affected. As I keep saying to people, when I switch this off, I have absolutely no fucks given whatsoever. And even when I'm on here, there's no fucks given because I don't associate this with anything relevant in what I would call my real life. It's just words and avatars and personas, you know, it's...
Cartoon.
Aye, it's ridiculous. But it's one step further. If I was to go down the pub, there's still a line that people know not to cross. Like people like that dipshit sending the email, they would never step into a social setting and start behaving like that because they would just get backhanded immediately. You know, if you're going to come at me with violence, but you can spout your gums all you like, but even at that level, you're still not going to do that because, you know, you don't have the fucking spine. That's why people like to hide behind avatars online and engage in these personas. It's just no reality.
Everybody's living an illusion. Song for years ago.
Aye.
It's just an illusion. There you go, I built my supper all night, I sang for it. And somebody showed me what part of the internet is real. It's a screen, it's a keyboard, it's wee electrical signals.
I would much prefer it that on a Saturday night we showed up at a venue in person and had the talk. You know, that would be much better for me. Something I've thought about, but you know, the logistics of that and, you know, making it happen. But I would love that, you know, on a Saturday. We show up and we, you know, pretty much like what they talk about in Greece, where, you know, philosophers and people would sit about and congregate and talk about these things, and I would love that.
And also have the ability to just walk away at the end of it and go, that was a great talk, there's nothing going to come for it.
No. And again, still in person, I'm not interested in debate because that's just insecure fuckwits coming to prove.
This is Taylor's. Debate's just word salesman.
Aye. Buy my product. Right, we'll check the emails. Right, we've got Imran, George Elliott, Andrew Marshall.
George Elliott.
What's
Is that an
that?
offer?
I don't know.
Or am I conflicting with two different offers?
Hey there, hope you're well and your family. I'm 20 years old. I was once a sheep for 18 years of my life. I wore masks and gloves during the first few months of the pandemic. Deep down I knew it was wrong. I went down the rabbit hole and holy fuck. I used to totally disregard the flat earth until around 9 months ago. Now so convinced the world we live in is not a globe, I just want to say thank you for being a big part and showing me how deep the brainwashing and lies go. you must already know, living in the world, knowing that it's all a lie and trying to have conversations with people is extremely hard when they just have such an ignorant and narrow-minded view on our existence. Times are tough living in Scotland. I'm sure we both will be able to get out of this. Love to meet you one day and get to pick your brain of your passion, la la. Cheers, George.
I like that bit there. He's saying we live in is not a globe. So he's saying what it is, isn't it? But he's not pushing.
Exactly.
You know, that's
Exactly.
class.
That's what we've said for the very off. It's always been the message here. You know, the claim it's a globe. Let's just focus on that. You know? Any day always a pleasure. Fuck the null-faced trolls. They're funny though, Andrew. I mean, they are funny. Imran, would love to join you for a chat. I'll set that up. I'm just what you doing? You sitting about you?
I'll sit about.
Right. Let me see.
Slot me your email address. You start half perfect, but then you went to fuck.
What?
Like A, B, C.
Yeah.
It's usually D.
Yeah. No, that's my Masonic symbolism.
I knew that. Didn't want to say it out loud though, in
Aye.
case you get
Sorry.
big public guys at your door ripping your limbs off.
And they batter me. Alright, Imran.
Hello, brother. How are you?
I'm good, mate. How's yourself?
Yes, good. Say hi to your friend as well. I can't see him, but I think he's there with you.
I hide off the camera. Fuck this one.
Yeah. So how's things, brother?
Alright, mate. I'm alright. How's yourself?
Yeah. Good. Everything's great here, and it's a good topic as well. You know, objectivity and subjectivity.
Yeah.
And I think you have done a good job bringing it up, and it was about time for all those who struggle to differentiate between objectivity and subjectivity.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's about time that people need to differentiate and draw the line and realize that when we are talking about the dimensions of this place, this pond, then it's an objective question.
Yeah.
And it's an objective inquiry.
Yeah. It's applicable to all these other topics of discussion, you know, as we're talking about earlier, gender and these types of things. And I'm sick of watching, I don't even watch them, but, you know, it seems to be still running, you know, riot, these discussions on gender and whatever else. And there's never any clarity given, you know, what we're actually talking about here. You know, what's the objective components and what's the subjective components, and showing the relevance of them, you know.
Right.
So it's not just about the shape of the earth for me, it applies to all these different topics that are there.
That's right, brother. All these different narratives and different agendas that are out and about in the public arena, they are mostly subjective, and that is why there are these never-ending debates, pointless, useless, time-wasting debates.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody is asking the relevant, the most important, the fundamental question: where are we?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's an objective question. It is an objective inquiry.
Exactly. And because we don't have that answer, you get subjective creations that have taken hold, and people identify with them. They become culture, they become practice, they become beliefs and things that people defend and stand by, and it's all founded and rooted upon utter confusion and bewilderment.
Yes. Bewilderment. That's it. That's the right word. Bewilderment, and people are just bamboozled and just involved in these senseless, never-ending debates.
Yeah.
on both sides of the spectrum, globe earthers versus others, so-called flat earthers, who come up with their suppositions and their models.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nobody is trying to really dig deep down to the root of all this.
No.
No, nobody is asking, nobody is getting deeper into, like things like you talk about, like density gradients and the vector and the way the density gradients are formed and what can explain, like you say, motion. Motion can explain straight line linear motion, right?
Yeah.
So in one of your videos, the topic was something like about it was about, I think, the uniform linear motion of the earth 3-4 videos ago. And towards the end of the video, you were giving an example of like a man in an elevator holding a ball.
Yeah.
Right, and if he drops the ball, then the ball appears to lose its momentum first, reduce the speed, and then the elevator comes and hits it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, that was a good point, but I feel like you wanted to say a bit more, and you wanted to discuss a little bit further on that point.
Yeah, that's always a huge interest of mine.
Yeah,
and I find that what's really interesting to me is the triggered response from people when we talk about these things. I find that more fascinating than the fact itself.
Yeah,
because that's simple to establish as far as I'm concerned. You don't have to work too hard in order to conceive of that possibility. But it's the triggered responses that are really interesting to me.
Yeah, triggered responses, they are amusing. I must admit, they are amusing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's something I would talk about, often, mate, because I see the huge significance in it, particularly when it comes to the globe Earth. As always highlighted, the globe Earth are utilising gravity as a mechanism of acceleration, and they utilise words like pull, pulling forces and these types of things. Although recently I caught wind of a short part of a debate. I think it was the boy What's it Gets It, I think his name is, and it was it looked like I need to be careful with the word I use, like a transgendery type person. And she was using words like, oh well, we know gravity pushes things towards the earth. So you start to see that as soon as something's highlighted about the absurdity of these things, what you start to see is the narrative changing, where they're grasping onto these things because they know there's no way to escape these fundamental facts. So now they're starting to utilise the language like, oh well, we know gravity pushes things towards the earth. Well, I've never heard them discussing gravity as things being pushed towards the earth. It's always pulled towards the earth,
Yeah, so they begin to just change the narrative then. They shift the goalpost.
And we've seen that right up into the depths of like Neil deGrasse Tyson, changing narratives based on things that were discussed here at this platform. And that's how far reaching it can go, because at the end of the day, when the truth's established, they know there's no way to escape it. They can only try and subvert it,
Try and take control of it.
Try and take control of it, exactly.
Yes.
Like Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, why should I debate anybody? Here's how debate works. A debate, somebody can be wrong, but as long as they convince the audience, then it appears that they win. So why should I debate people? I mean, where did he hear that? That's exactly the position here. But that's not how he was talking, years previous to that. So I find it really interesting.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Then they try to change the narrative and try to control the narrative and claim it like it they have claimed it.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
And try to take the credit.
Like you hear them saying, science is true whether you believe it or not. These fucking idiotic statements. No, reality is true whether you believe it or no. But aye. Again,
that's something that people get confused about. Confused between reality and science.
Yeah.
And when they hear this constantly, that trust the science and follow the science, instead of observing the reality, the objective reality.
Yeah. Well, they're telling you exactly what they are when they utilise language like that, trust and follow. I mean, where have we heard that? I can go into any church and that's what I hear, trust and follow.
Yes.
So it's absolutely no different. So they're actually telling you what they're about. You know?
Yeah, it's like religious belief.
Aye.
They want you to follow it blindly, blind faith.
Aye, that structure of religion has hijacked what we would call exploration of the physical world and given it this terminology of science, and it's the exact same. You know, they tell you stories about your existence and where you came from and where you're going, and that's storytelling. That's no objective exploration.
No. That's just ideas and stories.
Of course. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but well done. I think you brought it up at a good time. This objective and subjective, and I think this would help a lot of people.
Well, that's it. If anything, it gives clarity to us as well. You know, first and foremost, and if other people it helps them, then that's an added bonus. You know.
Yes, definitely. So, are you planning to do any more interviews, discussions, the street interviews?
I've still got one there that I've been holding on to that I done at the university. It was a young guy. It was quite a long one, and I allowed the conversation to meander. I never applied my usual kind of approach.
Yes.
So I'll probably put that up and let people see it for what it is. You know.
Yeah. No, that's a good way of exposing cognitive dissonance as well.
Yeah. But it's difficult here, Imran, as I say, for the last 2 weeks and for the next however long, it's just rain. It's so difficult here. I mean, you try and go out on a cold, wet day and get people to talk about, anything.
No. It's hard, brother. It's hard. It's hard. I'm a keen observer of the weather, of the reality in general, but weather especially. So, these things I keep a close eye on the weather and how it's working and how they are manipulating and controlling the weather.
Yeah.
And how they are blocking and dimming the sun.
Yeah. Good, mate.
So in your opinion, if I may ask you, what are the objectives of what are they trying to achieve by blocking the sun?
I've got absolutely no idea, mate. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know. We jump to the assumption that they're blocking the sun.
No, again, we are just discussing. It's just subjective thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't mean you, as we were pointing out earlier. When I say you, I don't mean you specifically. A lot of people do jump to that assumption in statements that they're blocking the sun. Well, how do we know? How do you know they're not feeding the sun? How do we know that they're not disguising anything else or using it to propagate whatever signal? Or it could be anything. It could be a whole number of reasons.
No, interesting. Yeah. Interesting point. Yeah. Anybody can come up with their own ideas and the way they try to define what's going on. But the way I interpret this is clearly they are blocking the sun, and it is having a detrimental effect.
Yeah.
On the plants especially.
Well, that is a component to it. We are missing sunlight because of these things going on. But that's another perfect example, mate. Objectively, we can look up and see these lines in the sky.
Yeah.
And then immediately people start jumping to narratives and stories about what's going on.
Yes. And I don't know what is up with people. Just trying to defend everything, every single psyop.
Yeah.
Why do people have to defend it?
Yeah, because they want to be right.
Are they weak or are they insecure or I don't know.
Both, mate. Exactly that. They want to have certainty. They want to be correct. They want to be somebody. So.
Why can't we all just admit that we have no idea where we are? What is this place?
Yep.
How did we get here? What are we supposed to do here?
Yep.
Aren't these the important questions?
Yep. You would think, mate, but apparently not. Apparently it's sexual identification and political fucking nonsense and whatever the governments are up to. That seems to be what's relevant to people.
Yes.
Whatever they're told to be relevant about is what they're relevant with.
Exactly. Yep.
That's right. Well, nice talking to you as always, Del. Nice catching up, brother.
Yeah, pleasure, mate. Pleasure.
Yeah. How's gym going? You're hitting the weights?
Just keep in. I don't push heavy weights anymore. I just
Yeah.
keeps my mind balanced, you know.
Well, that's good. Just stay fit, stay healthy.
That's it, mate.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right then. All the best and take it easy.
You too, mate. All the best.
All right. Yes. Thank you.
Speak to you soon, bud.
Let's speak soon.
Take
Bye.
care, mate.
Bye.
No, nobody else has requested to join, so I'll just cut it off. Unless there's anybody in the chat, any questions or anything, a couple of minutes and then we'll go.
So it's like what Imran was saying there, you know, we don't know things, but we can all have ideas.
Yeah.
So let's just play with the ideas because they're nothing but toys.
Yeah.
We just play with them until they break.
Yeah.
You know, but as you say, too many folk with their egos and narcissistic fucking qualities, they want to prove themselves right, so they just take an idea and start pushing it as an objective truth.
Yeah. Dale, you're a Freemason? No.
That's what a Freemason would say.
Well, that's what the next comeback, innit? I don't even know how it works. As far as I knew how that worked in Masonry was because if you had maybe a business or you had some sort of wealth or you were a predominant influence somehow that you would be approached, and I know they talk about a voting system and a black ball, like if you're invited or somebody applies to get you into a Masonic lodge, apparently there's a process of what they call blackballing or something.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody has, all the people or the what would the word be, the commission or whoever the authorities are, each one of the people have to vote to have you in.
Aye.
But if there's one black ball in the bag or something like that, you don't get. And I don't even know how it fucking works, to be honest with you.
Obviously blackballed came for it.
Blackballed, yeah, exactly. But I've never had that much an interest in it. But again, you know, let's talk a wee bit quick about this idea of secret societies, because I had a conversation with somebody the other night about this, you know, and we were just talking about, you know, I can't be social with people because the majority of people are filled with this subjective bias, narcissism, projection, need to control, blah blah blah, ignorance, apathy, right? Is it any wonder why people would create a secret society
To get away from it.
to get away from it,
Mm-hmm.
and then do whatever they can to isolate themselves away from it? Again, going back to where are we here? There could be other civilizations that have blackballed us, because I've made that point before. Why the fuck, if you were an advanced civilization living in some kind of idyllic, you know, utopia with peace and prosperity and art and blah blah, why the fuck would you want to include us in that? I mean, look at this. I can't even speak on here freely without some lunatic emailing me about wanting to rip my limbs off because he doesn't agree with what I'm saying. And then people wonder why there's fucking secret societies. I tell you what, I want a secret society because I don't want anything to do with the type of fuckwits that just emailed me 5 minutes ago. So stop blaming secret societies as if it's I'll tell you, again, it's another normal reaction to the abnormality that we call civilization. Fuck me.
You need secret societies because apparently people have lost the right to disassociate.
Fucking incredible. Have you been blackballed? Fucking right. I mean, some advanced civilization, you know, we think, oh, let's be pals. They'll be having a look and going like that. Fuck that. If any of them come near here, threaten them. Don't allow them to go above and below the 60th parallels, because that's close enough. The smell of them is enough.
Outlanders.
Exactly, Trackmatic, F equals MA. I've said that before to people, a lot of these people spout it, but they miss it. Is an unbreakable law, therefore if the laws of motion cannot be falsified, why do we ignore what they suggest? Exactly, mate. This is the thing, you get these people that think they're on some sort of scientific, progressive, alternative way of looking at it and truth. Right, but you get these fundamental facts that they just fucking throw out. They start rattling on about buoyancy and density and all this other fucking gibberish. Exactly, beyond belief. You know, you get these fearmongers like RV talking about Masons, but he's never exposed one, has never shown the relevance of what they are or the effect or any of that stuff. Nothing. You looking for a smoke?
I'll just take it out. Are you still on?
No, I'll meet you in a minute if you wait.
Right, okay.
Wait, I'll be in a minute.
Alright.
Well, what you demanding right now?
Aye, well, it's been like an hour.
It's one of these.
Are you sure, Matt? Is that okay?
In order to save
I
face,
didn't want to
I
say.
might have to batter you on camera.
Oh, away you go.
You know what I mean?
Thank you very much, Martin, for the nice kind
That's twice
gestures.
you would
And I've
know.
got
Don't
him.
ever come out here dressed like that. You're giving me a bad name.
What were they on?
What?
What were they on?
I'm my trainers on. Swarming here. I'm supposed
I know
to.
that as soon as you open the door, the chill
I just need that wee giraffe though. Aye, so fucking as I say, well, you know, me and you, we're antisocial. Me and you meet up on a Sunday and we just have our chats. So by right, I mean that's our secret society. I mean, we don't get in the pub.
Anybody else is invited.
Exactly. So I would be cautious about chastising anybody, you know, when you don't have the full picture. I say, stop listening to fucking fearmongers. As I said before, you know, manipulation, lies and deceit will put on any robe to achieve its goal, whether it be Freemasons, a Jesuit, a Christian, a fucking Black Lives Matter. I don't give a fuck what robe it's wearing. I'll identify it by its content, you know.
See, content doesn't bother me as much as it used to, because I just look more at action.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the action is the enforcement.
Yeah.
You know, people, as I keep saying, people can say whatever they want, they can have their wee secret societies and talk as much as they fucking want.
Yeah.
It doesn't change things.
No.
You know, but as soon as they start putting subjective actions on to force them, see ya.
Yeah.
That's where it goes wrong for me.
Well, look at mainstream media. Mainstream media and its personnel are spouting lies, manipulation, left, right and centre, having massive influence on people. But I don't see people like RV and these Freemason spouters approaching that. I don't see them encouraging people to, you know, dismantle the media outlets and to demand change in the product that they provide. I mean, there's none of that going on. They're just pointing at fucking empty buildings that stonemasons occupy and fucking saying that they're responsible for, you know, people believing absurdities. It's fucking ridiculous. First and foremost, it's a person's responsibility for buying into the fucking product. And if you're going to point the finger, then let's get it to the relevance. What's the massive influence on people? It's this fucking TV, media outlets that are having the influence on people and warping their perceptions. So obliterate that.
Or make people aware so they don't get influenced.
That's the whole point, isn't it? I mean, as I said before, I don't need to destroy NASA. If people are using their discernment and applying that to their, you know, their everyday life, then they'll look at NASA and just say, shite, and then turn their attention somewhere else. And NASA would just dissipate and fall away because nobody's buying their shit anymore.
Because even by going against NASA, you're still gaining energy.
Yeah.
You know, if you're professional, NASA's this, NASA's that, then you're still gaining that energy.
Yeah.
It's still going to exist.
Exactly.
Well, they switch things off.
Yeah. NASA has no bearing on my perceptions of my experience. You know, they did have when I was in ignorance. But again, that was my responsibility. I was in ignorance. You know, as soon as I became aware of it, then it's my responsibility then. Do I want to keep believing it? And I've said to people before, you've got a choice. You either embrace your experience of what is, or you don't, and you opt for some image-based symbol that you want to be true and live your life in ignorance, blind faith, belief. It's all supply and demand, James. Exactly, mate. Exactly. Mrs. Mango was a master mason. It's that Mrs. Mango from... that's a TV show, isn't it?
Aye.
One of the Australian ones, Neighbours. Fuck, I remember that. That shows you how ingrained it is for your childhood. Home and Away, Neighbours, Coronation Street, EastEnders. It was just all laid out. I remember that a few years ago. Hadn't seen any of that for about 20 years, and for whatever reason EastEnders was on the telly. And see, within 5 minutes I knew the whole fucking plot.
And you're depressed as fuck because of it.
I could predict every fucking aspect to it. All these things are to reaffirm to people that this is normal, this is life. Look, everybody behaves like this is the way it is. Fucking idiots. Crossroads, I remember that. Emmerdale Farm and fucking... You get people that have got it all laid out.
Aye. They don't watch much telly, just the soap operas.
Aye. Aye.
There's 5 rules every day.
A lot of people say to me, I don't watch telly, and then they start rhyming off, did you see this, and did you watch that? And I'm like, right then.
Show my age, I remember the first Australian soap that came out of Britain, Sons and Daughters.
Sons and Daughters, fucking hell, used to depress me.
They all depressed me.
When you were dogging school, you know what I mean, you stick a telly on and that shite would be going, oh, for fuck's sake. Don't know what's worse, Sons and Daughters or school.
School.
Flat Earth Banner, I heard that we were competing for fucking viewing figures on a Sunday afternoon. Old Nick's coming to Scotland next summer. Pop in and say hello, mate. Little House on the Prairie, it's a Bible.
That's my Bible.
That's Marty's Bible.
Little House in the Prairie. They show you how to live with morals and what's right. Stand up for what's right.
There's interesting facts about that, that you were saying about how that was pulled. Well, it was, it
was a tap show in America, and it had been running for 10 years. But my perspective, well, not even my perspective, our perspective is because the majority it was filmed outside, they would start to see all the chemtrails.
Yeah.
So it just got pulled, and that's when they started all your sitcoms and everything else all inside.
But it was also, I think, for the moral and ethical value, what it stood for, and what it highlighted.
Patriarch, head of the family.
Yeah. Yeah. Aye. It represented a lot of things like that I think would have been a problem for the upcoming agendas that were to be pushed. James, that's common to me. You tell people you don't watch TV, and that's the only conversations they've got. Have you seen this? Have you watched that? I don't watch the telly. Oh, right, aye. 2 minutes later, oh, watch this crank. Have you seen this? And you say,
or you get the other one, and you know who I'm referring to here. No, I don't watch the telly. Well, wait and I'll tell you about what I've watched.
Aye. I know.
Purposely avoided watching it. I didn't need you to give me your narrative.
If I want to watch it, I watch it. I don't need a fucking commentary on it.
You know me, I'm very picky and choosy.
Okay. Right. Brian, just wanted to say hello from Brooklyn, New York, aka Satan's Butthole. Big fan of the channel. Cheers, Brian. I would have to argue and say that this could be... Well, we'll say that New York's Satan's Butthole, but we'll say that Scotland is the matted pubic hair round the arsehole, right? Just to be fair.
No, Scotland's what you piss into, that's why it's always raining.
Right?
I mean, there are people out with Scotland that are aware of our weather system, our 4 seasons.
No,
No?
I don't think so.
No? Right, well, we'll start with spring, we've got rain.
Mm-hmm.
Then we move into summer, we've got warm rain.
Yep.
Then we move into autumn or fall, and we've got horizontal rain.
Yeah.
And then we move into the winter, and we've got cold rain.
Aye. That's it.
Summer's good because we do get rain shine at times.
Aye. People, I think people don't comprehend why I get so irritated and my blood boils when we get to spring, because it never happens, and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, and winters are just this. Sky's here, it's just pissing down all the fucking time. You can't do anything. You can't function in this. It's just not a place of lifting your spirit. It just dampens you continually. And I don't think the perception's there for people. You have to live this. If you came here and you lived here for a year, you would know all about it. You would be begging to get out of here.
Especially the west coast, because even if you do get a dry summer's day, you've got midges to deal with.
Aye. If you ever get a day where it's sunny and you can go out, then you're going to get eaten alive. I mean, again, back to this loving creators. Why the fuck would you create a midgie?
I've always pondered that.
What is the purpose of a fucking midgie?
That is life's big question.
Never mind where we are. Why the fuck do midges exist? Should you carry dinosaur blood?
They'll just be tiny beasties that fit in between all the wee particles.
Aye, aye.
What the particles they
Aye, the
got.
invisible space balls. Midgie. M-I-D-G-E.
That's a midge.
I don't know how you say it, midgie.
I usually put an I at the end.
Is it I-E? I don't know.
Here's my grammar again.
Grammar.
You've just spelled
You
midge.
fucking snob.
Mr. Ultravox.
You fucking snob.
I know.
Oh, Vienna. That's fine, Baron Bronskowicz. I know what you're saying. Marty, however, would have a problem with that spelling. M-I-J-J-E-E-S. I know what he's meaning.
Times I will accept phoneticism.
Ooh. I had the fucking cheek to talk about droughts here. You know? Fuck, imagine talking about a drought in the west of Scotland, for fuck's sake. That's how stupid people have got, you know? Magumba's a midgie, right, you're right. It's no here. Call him whatever you like. Des, how you doing, mate? No, certainly no. There's enough rainfall in the last 2 weeks to supply the world with water for the next fucking 10 years. Smoke time, yes, I think I'll be smoking shortly. I've not had any requests for anybody to join, so at this point it's just feeding off the chat. Speak to Marty, ask Marty questions.
What?
Not rolling smokes. Smudgy budgie, I wish it was snow here. At least with snow you can function. You know,
Well, we used to be able to.
snow's
You know, when
fun.
we used to get 2 and 3 foot of snow and things like that. We used to still function as a country. Nowadays, if we get 2 inches of snow, everything comes to a standstill.
Yep,
And I can mind when I was an engineer, I used to actually have snow chains in the back of my van.
yep.
still moved.
Yep. Aye, as I say, if it was, you know, cold and snowy in the winter, I would love that, because at least you can be active. Trying to stay active in this type of weather is just fucking impossible. Yeah, it's not impossible, but it's hard work.
And usually you need to go indoors.
Take it Matty has no clue like the rest of us.
I come from a place of not knowing, that's where I'll always be.
Yep.
All I know is my own experience, and even that's subjective.
There's common ground without any tension and confrontation there, because it's the honest place to be. There's nothing to defend.
It's just when you say that's another thing that seems to affect people. Not knowing something. You ever noticed that before? If they don't know something, they get all irritated and agitated. They're like, and they try and make stuff up just to cover rather than just saying, listen, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Big Red, you'll see fuck all without your eyes. That was a good movie, that. I think the overall message in that movie was good in regards to the system and its approach. You ever seen that?
What's that?
A Sense of Freedom with Jimmy Boyle.
Oh, right, aye.
And so Big Red was just putting a quote up for the film there. But I liked the overall message in that movie. You know, if you treat a man with disdain and contempt and violence, then what do you expect back but the very same? But if you treat a man with, you know, compassion and whatever else, then that's what you get. You get, aye. Well, there are those, but seriously, I'm still on the trail of getting out of here and living in the sun. If anybody has any offers, let me know. Sick of all you poor bastards watching me. Where's the rich cunts? Maybe you're a rich cunt and you're just tight-fisted. See, if I was a Freemason, a part of some fucking network or whatever, do you think I would be residing here? No.
I mean, you see, that's just part of the master plan.
What's that?
No, they just have you in a scheme so you just look like a normal
normal
of
dude,
public.
Aye. So that I can influence people online. You know, I couldn't have done that for the Sun. No. I couldn't have been in a housing scheme in Colombia.
No.
Nah, had to be west of fucking Scotland. You're supposed to be entertaining the chat here,
What's that?
You're supposed to be entertaining the chat,
I can't see the chat here.
Can you know?
No.
Isn't it logically preposterous to think that there are rocks flying above our heads? Aye, of course, pragmatic. But I make that point to people, you know, simply. There's a ball. You get things in water to stick to the ball. Get it to float in mid-air. and get stuff out to stick to it. That should be enough.
And we even done experiments with that.
Aye.
We just couldn't make it happen.
No. Nope. What's your opinion on weed and psychedelics? My experiences are psychedelics were very useful to me up until a point in my life, and that's as far as it went. Psychedelics gave me no answers to the objective questions. Weed balanced me through my depression and my anxiety and whatever else, and still does to an extent.
I find the weed helps to focus, you know, because sometimes when you yourself, you start thinking about things, you get fireworks going off all directions.
Yeah.
Have a nice wee smoke and it just chills it down and you can start focusing on each individual.
Yeah.
Psychedelics, that's just like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, moving into a cartoon world.
Yeah.
I've never seen any elves. Seen the Elephant King, but I've never seen any elves. Anybody else taking psychedelics and seen the Elephant King?
Sometimes I was that too far gone on mushrooms, there was no conversations banner. The conversations usually happened on the way back down. Who's there with you? Is that Mr. Cheswick? No, it's Marty. I don't think if there are any meetups from upcoming minds. Would people like a meetup? Would like to do it better than it's ever been before. Just meeting at pubs just doesn't cut it for me.
No.
You know?
Too many distractions.
Too many. Maybe like something organised where, you know, it's us. You know, if we even get people that are involved in the music, we could maybe hire out a place and have a band on and, you know, have an open mic session and, you know, something like that. Maybe look into that if people are, if I get enough feedback for that. Problem is though, a lot of people are in America, England, you know, it's difficult. If there was enough demand, then I would try and organise some sort of gig. But a bit more relaxed where people can interact and get up on stage and sing a song and play a bit, whatever you like. You gonna sing?
Oh aye.
You get a saxophone in?
Aye. Or as the neighbours call it, that fucking trumpet.
A few more lessons required. I'm the same, I don't drink alcohol either, so I'm not into pubs. Arthur could play a triangle, you could play a trumpet. Got a duet. Got a duet happening.
So neighbours that called it a fucking trumpet.
It's a good idea, James. You could maybe do that, you know. Have Zoom at the gig.
But I'll only play jazz.
Good, Amy, you can bring me a few pre-rolls. Aye, cheers Big Red, but we'll not want to go too gung-ho with all different bands and stuff. Maybe like a kind of, you know, have a couple of bands and, you know, have an open session maybe. Kind of some talk and some music, whatever.
I can't do both.
think I'll look into it, Neil Paisley. It's grabbing my attention, so I'll have a think about it. Anybody else that's got any input or any, logistical input in regards to, a space or a venue, any other ideas, just get in touch with me.
See when you say that, just venues and things like that, you're old enough to remember the Fountain Gardens in Paisley. They're still there obviously, but do you know mind they used to have a big bandstand and everything that was open to the public, so you could have your own wee meetings and such like there.
But now you need permit.
Aye,
You
who's taking a
need
light?
request from the council.
Yes. Please sir.
No right to assembly anymore. You're living in democracy, but there's no right to assembly. And when the Queen dies, we're going to shut the country down, and you will do what you're told. Democracy!
You will cry.
Cry and mourn, you fucker. Yeah, let's get this organised then. There's people saying they're willing to travel up, there's people offering they've got 6 seats and whatever else, so let me have a think about this and try and plan it out.
Even if you use the comment section as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we're all coming for the one place.
Yeah. It's all relative beyond belief. There is no down or up. Hey buddies, Big Red. Hopefully we'll get other feedback, people letting us know if they want that to happen. If I can get enough feedback to see that it would be feasible. Obviously I'll try and get somewhere that's not going to charge us a fucking arm and a leg or whatever. I'll even have a look at the local community centre around there. You can sort out your own bar and whatever
Bring
else.
your own. Bring your own.
Aye. I see that Arthur. He's going to get in touch. Singing in the rain. We'll have to do it inside. Anyhow, I think that's us.
Aye.
Gonna call it a day on that. I say we'll have that hopefully for the future. We'll see where it goes. Maybe make it a regular thing. Objectivity festival.
And it is more objective with your face to face rather than on a screen.
Exactly.
On an avatar. I'm not saying that people are hiding behind avatars, I'm just saying that.
Exactly. And it's always good to see who's behind the avatars. Nice one, Fraser. Right, cheers people. I'll catch you all soon.